Hi, guys. Welcome to the latest episode of the Lion and the Liverbird podcast. We've got Rohit joining us from the USA. He's going to be talking about a very interesting thing that has happened. Chelsea have
Sure,
appointed
interesting.
another
Yes.
another new manager. So
Yeah.
it's like I think every 6 months or something, somebody new comes in for Chelsea at this point. So the person that they've signed is Enzo Maresca. For those who don't know, like people like me who did not know about him, he actually led Leicester to promotion this season. And lo and behold, for me at least, it was a signing out of the blue. I did not know Maresca was being linked with the Chelsea side for the Chelsea job. I didn't think Pochettino was also going to get sacked,
Yeah.
but uh, that's how things are at Chelsea. So take it away, Rohit. First, we'll
Yeah.
discuss about what happened with Pochettino.
Yeah.
Uh, because the results during the last 2, 3 months of the season were slightly better. I know you guys
Yep.
got into Europe
Yep.
thanks
Yep.
to Manchester United or somehow, but Chelsea seemed to be heading in a correct direction. I would say, like they were going up. At least it was positive more than negative. And
True.
then all of a sudden, rumors started coming out that Pochettino was going to get sacked, and he did get sacked. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, I mean, the one word I'd use to describe this entire saga is I'm tired, man. I'm tired with all these turnover and managers. Since the Boli and Ekbali and Clear Lake folks took over, we've had like, I don't even remember how many. They started with Tuchel, didn't get along with him, fired him, got Potter as the project kind of manager. The modern manager, he didn't get the results, so they had to fire him. Lampard came in to salvage the season. And then finally they appointed Pochettino, and then after 1 year they sacked Pochettino. I think I was joking with you, before the podcast. At this point, I just take like Sam Allardyce football for 3 years of stability, right? I not interested in the new manager. But yeah, let's get into it. Let's talk about what happened, and there's so many things that are just off about this, right? Like you said, right? Let's talk about how Poch's season was
yeah,
at Chelsea. So when Pochettino was appointed last year, he actually got a pretty small contract. He got a 2 year deal. And this was partially because they gave Potter a 5 year deal. And then Potter didn't work out at all, right? I think. And so they were a little wary, they were a little scared of giving a manager a long term deal. And so they ended up giving Pochettino a 2 year deal. And what did they get when they, signed Pochettino as a coach? Pochettino is renowned to be a great man manager.
hmm
He's a manager who plays attacking football on the transition. So a lot of transitions, a lot of like freedom for the attacking players. And as a result, sometimes defensively, he's not that compact. So all of these were in the public domain. This was common knowledge. It was not like it was something brand new. And Pochettino is not like a hipster manager out of the left
oh
field
yeah,
and you don't know about these things. And so the Chelsea, sporting directors and technical directors went ahead and made the appointment. And so if you make an appointment, you kind of expect certain things, right? It seems like the sporting directors really didn't think it through. So the overall season at Chelsea was, blew hot and cold. Some positives: we scored a lot more goals this season. We scored like 77 goals compared to I think just 41 or 42 last season. So there was a marked improvement there. But we also conceded like 63 goals. But that's kind of expected with the Pochettino team, especially because all the profiles of players that Pochettino got was not exactly what he wanted. So to play,
and
yeah,
I think the other thing was also the number of injuries your team had. I
yes,
mean,
huge number of injuries, but
I
that's
remember
again,
Chilwell, Reece
yes,
James, they're
yeah,
constantly getting injured.
yeah,
Your
and
forwards were
re-injured.
always getting,
Yep,
yeah, re-injured.
re-injured.
Correct, correct.
So
Yeah.
yeah, there's a point to be discussed there, right? So was the injury record so bad because of Pochettino's training or Pochettino's methodology, or was it just the medical team being inept? We will never know, right? But that definitely is one of the mitigating factors that caused Chelsea to have a hot and cold season. For most of the season, it was very frustrating. Chelsea wasn't playing well. They were 11th and 12th and languishing there and losing games pretty badly. But the last couple of months, like you said, Poch did turn things around. So we won like the last six games in a row, and we ended up with a sixth place finish. We would have gotten Europa League which was pretty unthinkable a month back, actually. But then Manchester United upset Man City in the FA Cup. So they
Yeah.
usurped that the Europa spot from us. And so we'll be in the Conference League. There's some jokes about the Conference League and the fact that Chelsea might have to go to Bulgaria and somebody might abduct Mikhailo Mudryk because Bulgaria aligns with Putin. So all those Conference
I don't
League
think that will be a
jokes.
loss for Chelsea, though. I mean,
That's
monetarily,
true.
it will be a loss,
That's true.
but not in terms of playing.
That's true. That's true. So, we were finally starting to see things turn around. We were finally starting to see results, improvement from Pochettino. And one of my biggest issues with Pochettino was he didn't seem to be adapting very well with modern tactics. And the most, prevalent modern tactic being inverting the fullback, right? So we never did that for the entire season, but for some reason, last 6 games, he decided to invert Kukurea from left back into midfield, and that gave us a lot of control, and we won a lot of matches. So that boded well, right? And as I said, Pochettino is always a good man manager. So yeah, Pochettino was always a good man manager, right? And the squad really liked him. All of them loved him. All these young guys really looked up to him, and then that kind of was very evident after he was sacked. Everybody posted on social media. Nicholas Jackson, our striker, posted the face palm emoji, like, why did you fire this guy? So he was clearly loved by the players, and having a young squad, having somebody who gets along with the players, who can guide them, is very important. So the side of his managerial expertise that needed improvement was the tactical changes, and he seems to be getting it right. He just inverted the fullback. He made some tweaks, and we were playing pretty well. But the other side of the coin was what was happening behind the scenes, and it was also becoming very evident in the press conferences in the last few games, because Pochettino seemed like a angsty teenager in those games. Whatever questions were being asked to Pochettino, somehow he was kind of blowing it out of proportion and making it about himself versus the management. So there was a question in one of the games where the reporter asked, Chelsea's finally turning things around. Do you feel like your team is the main
Oh
thing,
yeah.
is finally improving? And Pochettino's answer to that was, "It's not my team; it's Chelsea's team." Like, what? It's like a teenage, a brooding teenage, always finding things to fight about. But that clearly showed not everything was well with the
So
hierarchy.
that's one of the things that came up.
Yeah.
The other thing that I was reading about was there was some friction between
Yes.
Pochettino and some of the back room management signings that
Yes.
were made by Chelsea. One
Yeah.
specific
Yeah.
was the set piece coach. So maybe you can
We'll get
elaborate
to
on
that.
that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
We'll
yeah.
definitely get to that. Right. So let's kind of set the stage. So the Chelsea hierarchy right now is, we have two co-sporting directors, Lawrence Stewart and Paul Winstanley. These are two guys that Chelsea brought over. They have a pretty good reputation in their game, and one of their main things has been recruitment, right? Recruitment, setting up the club for success, and trying to move the club to adopt more modern methodologies. Use more data. For recruitment, hire only young players who may not be the finished article, so on and so forth. And Poch, being kind of old school manager in many ways, obviously had some friction with them, like you said. So there was friction on signings, right? This last with the winter transfer window, Poch made it clear that he wanted some signings. He wanted more experienced players, because experience, we've talked about it. Chelsea squad is the youngest squad in the league, lacked experience, made some very stupid decisions. So he wanted more experienced players in certain positions, but we didn't make those signings. He didn't get the players that he wanted. So there was friction there. And then the other thing that you brought about, Chelsea has been talking about and finally ended up hiring this guy called Bernardo Cueva. So he was Brentford's set piece coach. And Brentford, as we all know, is one of the teams that's really good at set pieces, right? And they, apart from Thomas Frank, who's the main coach and manager, they also had this guy called Bernardo Cueva who worked on the set pieces. The funny thing about that is Poch didn't like it. So Poch didn't like being undermined. Poch didn't like some other coach coming in and teaching set pieces. which is kind of interesting. It tells you a lot about Pochettino, right? Because I mean, the game is moving in that direction, right? For example, now we've always had goalkeeping coaches, right? Everybody's had goalkeeping coaches. I know
So it's
Liverpool
interesting.
had a throw-in coach,
Yeah,
right? Yeah,
yeah,
go
they had a
ahead.
throwing coach for a few years. That's
Yeah,
right.
yeah,
And we actually became really good at not only keeping the ball after throw-ins, but actually creating attacking opportunities from a throwing coach. And
exactly.
there was a big joke, like, why do we need a throw-in coach? But it worked for us for quite a long time.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
it's very interesting that Pochettino is a little averse to these
Yes.
modern
Yeah,
techniques and modern moves in
yeah,
the
yeah.
footballing scheme of things
So
now.
that's a good point. So we don't really know whether he's averse to it, but he may not want to cede control. He
Hmm.
may have wanted, his own assistant doing it or something like that, but he didn't want to cede the control to the sporting director to appoint
Hmm.
an external coach to, train us on our set pieces. And Chelsea really needed a set piece coach. We've been pretty bad in terms of defending set pieces, in terms of scoring set pieces, so on and so forth. That's why, that was one of the major reasons why Pochettino had friction and didn't get along with our sporting directors, and which ultimately led to him, getting, I wouldn't say getting fired. It was more of a mutual thing. Because another thing that Poch said in one of his press conferences was, somebody asked him, are the owners happy with you? Right? Are the Chelsea owners happy with you? He said that it's not just the owners being happy with me. Are we happy with the owners in Chelsea? Right? So yeah. So he said something like that. It was some funny stuff happening. So, anyways, the season ends. We are feeling good about ourselves. Okay, we may have gotten Europa. At least we've gotten to Europe. We are starting to build a little bit of momentum. And I personally, we have talked about this on this podcast, that I personally would have preferred Poch to stay at least another season for
Hmm.
continuity, to build out, the confidence, the playing style, and the tactical nous of some of these young players. But the rumor mill starts working, and we start getting these kind of notifications saying that, hey, Pochettino and Chelsea might part ways. And apparently, after the season ended, Pochettino had like some dinner with Todd Bowley, one of the co-owners, and subsequently they had two very long end of the season reviews, in which the other co-owner, Behdad Iqbali, he's a finance guy. He brought a lot of data, to do like a season review, and a lot of data which showed Pochettino in a bad light. And apparently there was disagreement, and they both decided. So Pochettino's side as well as the Chelsea hierarchy decided the best thing to do would be to part. When the news came out, like I said, we were all just tired of this. I'm like, why are you doing this? It's like a circus. It's basically a clown show right now. Why would you do this? But then once you start getting more information, it starts making sense, right? Chelsea are trying to build something in a certain way. They're trying to make things more modern, and there's no point having somebody who has friction in certain basic aspects of this, right? Uh, and then the other thing that ended up happening was, it was not really a firing, right? It was a mutual separation, so to speak. Pochettino didn't want to stay with Chelsea. Chelsea didn't want to stay with Pochettino, and so they kind of said goodbye to each other. And I talked about this. Most of the players posted, really, warm messages towards
Yeah.
Pochettino, because he's a great manager. Everybody, express their gratitude towards him for really taking the squad forward. And to give him his due, he really did. Right, he really did improve a lot of the players from basic aspects like how to track back, and how to pass to your open teammate in front of goal instead of trying to score, how to
Is
let the
this about
penalty
Raheem
taker
Sterling?
take the penalty. Yeah, so there was some really like asinine and very like childish behavior that was happening, which Poch was able to improve, right? And that was one of the reasons why I like to have him over for one more season. But anyways, that didn't happen. And then, once Pochettino leaves, of course, the who's going to be the next manager, that becomes, the talk of the town. And like you said, Chelsea are on the verge of signing Enzo Maresca. He's an Italian coach, and so essentially, let's talk about who else was in the running.
Yeah, yeah.
So the funny thing was, the main candidates in the running was Enzo Maresca, who was the Leicester coach in the championship last season. Kieran McKenna, who was the Ipswich Town coach.
Yeah.
Ipswich Town came second, and they've also gotten promoted. Thomas Frank and Roberto Di Zerbi. Maybe he was in the running. And so the Chelsea fans were really mad. He's like, why are you replacing Pochettino with like championship level managers, right? That's not the kind of manager, the pedigree of the managers that we usually go for. But another interesting thing was happening concurrently. I don't know if you followed it. Bayern Munich has
Yeah, I was gonna say
basically,
that.
yeah, Bayern
Yeah.
Munich has basically appointed Vincent Kompany as their manager after getting rid of Tuchel. And Vincent Kompany did well, the previous season in the championship with Burnley. So that's where his credentials are from. He got Burnley promoted, but this year they went straight back down, right? He didn't do a good job with Burnley in the Premier League. He was not able to, keep them in the Premier League, and they got relegated. And even though you have a manager who's getting a team relegated, he's getting poached by a team of the standard of Bayern Munich. So there's an
It's
interesting point
shocking.
here. Yeah, it is shocking,
It's
but that
shocking.
tells you what most teams are trying to build here, right?
Yeah,
Most
yeah.
teams are trying to get a young manager, a modern manager, a manager who employs attractive brand of football. And we did talk about this a little bit in one of our episodes, I remember. And I said, coaches like Company, they do not want to make Burnley play practical football,
Yeah.
just to make them survive in the Premier League, because their aspirations are higher. So they'd rather give like an audition of, hey, this is the kind of football I can play, and get relegated, than set up their team like Sam Allardyce or something like that
Sean
and defend
Dyche.
the Premier League. Yeah, Sean Dyche. Yeah, Sean Dyche, who got Everton over the line.
It's
So
funny because there were jokes going on. Sean Dyche did such a good job with Burnley during his
yeah,
time there, and he never got a call from Bayern
yes,
Munich. He should have
exactly,
taken
exactly.
Everton down. He would have become Real Madrid manager.
Exactly. And so, along the same lines, basically hiring a manager based on the credentials of the championship. Chelsea were looking at Enzo Maresca of Leicester and Kieran McKenna of Ipswich. And at the end of the day, they narrowed it down to Kieran McKenna, to Enzo Maresca. Sorry, there's so
No,
many
so
names
yeah,
out there.
no. McKenna was also in the running for quite a while. I
Yes,
think he was
McKenna
leading
and
the race. Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
McKenna and Maresca were the two final candidates, and Maresca beat McKenna out. And the main reason, we'll probably do another episode on this, but the main reason that I understand they chose Maresca is the fact that he's young. He's around 44.
Yeah.
He is a Pep Guardiola disciple, so he was
Yes.
Pep Guardiola's assistant in their treble-winning season. And then he plays a possession-based, control-based, attractive style of football. Now, some might call it boring as well. We all know how City plays. Sometimes it does get boring. Basically, keep a hell of a lot of possession and kind of grind your opponent out that way. And that's the kind of football that Maresca plays. Kieran McKenna, on the other hand, was very similar to Pochettino, from what I understand. A lot of transitions, a lot of quick movement and passing, and a lot of freedom given to the players up front. And from what I understand, that's not the exact suitability to the squad that Chelsea has. Chelsea has a lot of technicians as opposed to a lot of good athletes, especially in midfield and the forward areas. So I think that's the main reason why Maresca is being appointed. We'll see how it turns out, because after the Potter fiasco, I'm not very confident about it. The only difference between Potter and Maresca has actually won something, right?
Yeah.
He's won the championship, of course, but he's also been the assistant manager at the treble-winning City side, right? So he
And he was
knows.
also in charge of the city development side, I think, when they won
Yes,
the Premier
yeah,
League 2.
that's a good point.
So,
Yeah, that's a good point.
and obviously being under someone like Pep, it rubs off. So we
Yes.
have Mikel Arteta, who's leading Arsenal. We've got Vincent Kompany now at Bayern.
Yep.
And now we have
Yep.
Maresca.
Yeah.
Yeah, Maresca.
Yes.
So it's like
Yeah.
a quartet of
Yeah.
Peps.
Yeah, that's also interesting. It's interesting you
And
brought
I
up
think I know
the
actually
development.
why
Yeah, go ahead.
Chelsea went for Maresca.
Uh-huh.
It's a hipster signing, I know, but I think it's because he's bald.
Yes.
Liverpool got
Could have
lost.
signed me.
Yeah. I think you would have done a better job also than Maresca. I
Oh
don't
my
know,
God.
maybe. So
That's
yeah.
funny. No,
No, so
but you
I was
did.
reading up.
Yeah.
sorry, I was reading up on his style of play and all, and
Yeah.
it's pretty similar to what Pep Guardiola does.
Yes, very similar.
He needs the goalkeeper to play out from the back.
Yeah.
So I don't know how Roberto Sanchez will do that.
He's not even first choice at this moment.
Oh yeah, right,
Petrovic
right,
is.
right.
Yeah,
It's Petrovic, correct, correct. They had
yeah,
spoken about in great detail about him a
yeah.
few podcasts. It's possession based
Mhm.
and obviously using the inverted fullbacks, and the striker sometimes drops deep to help
Mhm.
build up play. So maybe that's where Nkunku could be used. I don't know.
Yeah, and no, actually, Nicholas Jackson is also
Oh
really
yeah,
good
yeah,
at dropping
Jackson,
back.
dropping back.
So
Yeah.
yeah, he's been one of the best ball progressing forwards actually in the Premier League this season. He misses a lot of chances, but he one of his positives is he can really run with the ball, and he's good at connecting play.
I found
Uh,
another interesting comment. This was from Harry Winks,
yeah,
ex-Spurs player
yeah,
and all. So he said that Maresca is the best manager he ever worked with,
uh-huh.
which is interesting because he was with Pochettino for quite a while.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah. Understandable because I think Maresca is, lineage of Pep Guardiola, so they do a lot more planning, positional football, a lot more kind of analysis of the opposition. Whereas Pochettino, I think he kind of lets people free, and that's one of the reasons why Palmer did so well under Pochettino because he gives folks a lot of freedom. But I'd like to go back to one of the things that you said, the fact that Maresca led the City's, I think, PL2 team to the
PL2 side, yeah,
championship.
development
Yeah.
side, correct.
So he essentially has a lot of experience with guys like Palmer, Romeo
Yeah.
Lavia, who were with City. And then Chelsea also have Joe Shields, who's one of our recruitment head. He also used to be in Man City. So there are a lot of people in our structure who know Maresca. So it's going to be interesting.
There
Another
was
thing
something.
is,
No, no, there was something I
yeah,
needed
yeah.
to point out. This is completely off topic, but
Yeah.
I just needed to bring this out. Earlier on, remember when we used to watch the championship, it was very, pump the ball forward.
Yeah,
A 6 foot striker will nod it down and somebody will finish it off, like a Peter Crouch and Jermaine Defoe strike pairing. Now you're seeing teams that actually play expansive football,
absolutely.
which was not expected from a championship side because I think they play 46 games in a season. They have separate cups and all, and it's very difficult. The championship is, I think, more difficult than the Premier League. So we've seen Leicester play good football. Ipswich, I believe, do play good football. Burnley
Yes.
did,
Burnley before that,
and
yeah.
yeah, Burnley before that, and even Leeds United to an extent were playing
Yes.
good football. They missed out on qualification. So maybe
Yeah.
Pep's influence is growing a lot. I mean, championship
Absolutely.
is it
Pep
has
keeps
changed.
winning the
Yeah,
Premier League and like Pep's disciples, Pep
yeah,
Light, they keep winning the championship, right? It's very, very
yeah.
interesting. He's really revolutionized football in that sense. There's no question about that.
Mhm.
Uh, and then one final thing about Maresca, I'd like to say is he also worked with Cesare Casade. He's Chelsea's young midfielder from Italy who was on loan to Leicester. So I think there'll be some familiarity there as well. So all we can hope for is Chelsea move ahead in this season. We finished sixth. At least we should be competing for a top four finish next year. But we'll see, right? So that's my problem with this constant churn of managers, especially with a young squad. It takes time for some of these ideas to percolate
Yeah.
and really get imbibed within these young guys. And I really don't know whether and this preseason is going to be short because we have the Euros, we have Copa
Copa
America
America.
coming up. So I don't know how much, and Olympics as well. So I don't
Oh
know how
yeah.
much time
Wow.
Maresca is going to get with the entire squad. And if he has a bad start, we all know what happens then, right? Things go south, the media, the fans get against you. There's a clear narrative here, right? The fans are going to be like, why did you appoint a championship manager, right? So
Mm.
until and unless we really start seeing positives from the get-go, things could go down south and then things could really, the Potter fiasco could repeat. That's my fear.
Yeah, but surely the Chelsea management know that there is a possibility it doesn't click for the first 2 3 months. There is a higher possibility of it not clicking than clicking.
100%.
Uh, yeah, so I'm sure that's part of the thinking that it will not be like you guys start the season with 12 straight wins or something like that.
True.
This is a project. I'm sure they have that in mind that we'll have to give him time. As long as you don't fall beneath, let's say, a top 10 or something, then let him progress, let him see how it goes. Because as we've seen during the end of the season, the team is decent. There is
Yes.
something that can be done with them. and they're young, so there is potential. There's a lot of potential. We still haven't seen the best of Caicedo and Fernandes together.
Yes. Yep.
I mean, we've seen glimpses, but they are two of the best midfielders in the world. Cole Palmer's brilliant. Jackson's growing. I won't talk about Mudryk. So, yeah,
TikTok
I haven't
footballer.
seen anything. Yeah, I don't
He's a
know.
TikTok footballer, bro.
So there is something there. So I hope he's given time, because the worst thing that can happen is that 6 months down the line, again, you guys start searching for a new manager.
True.
And well, the signs do point towards it, somehow clicking, because he is a modern manager. And
Yes.
if Bayern Munich can take a risk with Vincent Kompany, I'm sure Chelsea can take a risk with Maresca, who's actually won a very difficult championship in his, I
Yeah.
think it was in his first season
Yeah.
in
Yep.
charge of
With
Leicester.
Yeah.
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 So, yeah.
So, couple of things there, right? The first thing is I really hope he works, but then my issue with the Chelsea management is you go with Potter, right? You fire Tuchel, who's just won you Champions League.
Champions League.
You get Potter, who's supposed to be your up and coming modern manager, the guy who's going to help build your project. Things don't go his way for like 8 to 10 months, and you fire him. Then you get somebody completely opposite, Pochettino, right? When I'm pretty sure, they would have gotten the impression that Pochettino is somebody who wants more control, who's not going to be, a pushover, who's not going to like, new and modern kind of set piece coaches and things like that. And why did you hire him, right? It doesn't make any sense. Uh, Anyways, let's see what happens. And then the Maresca Leicester one, right? The only concern there is Leicester City's squad was actually far and above, much better than the rest of the championship. So it's often said that Leicester City had a Premier League squad and they competed in the championship, right? So they had an advantage there. And Maresca also ended up blowing a huge, I think, 17-point lead, and they ended up winning with just 1 or 2 points, I think, at the end of the day. So there is some concerning things there, but let's see what happens. We can only hope for the best. And yeah, I really don't want any managerial changes going forward, but we'll see. If they start performing horrendously, I might change my tune.
It's going to be an interesting season for both Liverpool and Chelsea with new
Liverpool,
manager.
see, Liverpool have done it so well though, right? You have like a steady, generational manager in Klopp, and then we've talked about this. And then when he leaves, you guys, get Schlott, who, fits your team to a T.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
let's see what happens at Chelsea.
It's going
Okay.
to be very interesting.
Yeah, well, that's the last thing I wanted to talk about today. And of course, we have an exciting summer coming up. As I said,
It'll be a
we have
crazy summer.
we have the Euros, we have Copa America, you have the Olympics, and of course, we'll also have all the transfers that's going to start. And there's going to be a lot of movement in the transfer market, so we'll definitely talk about some of that. We'll talk about the players that Liverpool is targeting, the players that Chelsea is targeting, and then take it from there. And as usual, thank you everybody for listening to our podcast. Please like, share, and subscribe and comment. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.